Hi there, this is Buck65. Just changing the fluids on my automobile, and meanwhile, listening to the Melancholy Vibe remix here in space.
www.mvremix.com.
And it starts off with the teeth. It's like, yeah, Rich has this recurring dream of his teeth falling out. Experts say, people who have this dream are typically, have a lot of sexual inadequacies, a lot of anxiety to go along with it. And the headline, might as well say like Buck65, lousy baby, something like that. It's like bamboozled. We didn't even discuss that angle at all. They get loose, and I really worry about them falling out. And I keep my jaw clenched, and it's like, don't let them fall out. Get to the dentist. But then I can't help but play with them, and they fall out. Or sometimes they break out. But it can vary a little.
See, what I was told that dream means is it represents change or death. I've had those two, and I'll just pick.
Yeah, I've heard those. The change is the most common one that I've heard.
I like that.
And but I've heard several, and I've even heard some like good things. Like it means you're a good swimmer or something like that. But this is probably bad for the
yeah.
Crank it.
So let's see. Should be working. Alright, well, the first one is going to be a very, very easy one. You've been through it 1,000 times, but it's just tells a little about your background, your name.
What's the background of my name?
No, a little about your background and the name Buck65.
Okay, well, my name is Rich, and I was born in 72, which was a while ago, but it was a good year. Probably, for any kind of record digger looking for breaks, it's the best year. If you want a general rule of thumb, you look for records from 72, and you pretty much can't go wrong. But that aside, I was born in Halifax, in an insane asylum. And no, I wasn't. But I grew up in a really small town of a few hundred people, and that's a key thing. And so I grew up, not having much to do. I for most of my childhood, I worked on digging a hole to China, just in this area I called the pit behind my house.
How successful was it?
I didn't get too far. I just kept hitting big seams of rock, and then it ended up being pretty crooked. But and climbing trees and just playing in the ditch, and then I discovered I don't know, music, I guess, at a pretty young age, and had some kind of key influential people in my life who kind of set me down my path. And in particular, there was this man named Fudd Green, and in my town, being a small town and being in a rural place, people's idea of fun there is a little different than in some places. And so the main leisure activities among adults, I guess, and people of all ages, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25-year-old, 26-year-old kids, children of God are in their 20s. They liked the bingo, to go to the bingo, to the the auction on the weekend, and but most importantly, like square dancing and stuff like that, like the hoedown or whatever they would call it. And Fudd was the guy who did all of those things. He was the square dance caller, which is a lot like rapping, actually, which will, be important later for obvious reasons. And he was like the guy that would call the bingo. Just if there was any job in town that required a man being on a microphone, it was him. And everyone looked up to Fudd in this town because he was kind of like the only thing that we had even close to a local celebrity there. And there's something quite compelling about the guy kind of calling the square dance, because he's got like the whole room in the palm of his hand. He's calling the shots, and he had a pretty cool style, and he's popular with the ladies and stuff. So I of course really looked up to him and admired him and wanted him to kind of show me the ropes and what he knew and his techniques and secrets and stuff. He was a little bit of a struggling cowboy poet on the side. Anyway, his favorite possession in the world was his car, 1965 Buick Riviera Grand Sport GS, and he always talked about the car. And as we kind of developed in our friendship, he noticed that a lot of the same words that he would use to describe the car, he was using to describe me and my style. So we're talking about words like reliable and smooth and hardworking, with the delicate balance between power and finesse. And so it became a joke. I'd be practicing and doing my thing, and he's like, just like a 65 Buick, old 65 Buick. Look at him work, And so it stuck, and he just began to refer to me as 65 Buick.
Okay.
And so the first time I was going to actually kind of be a featured part of one of the square dance shows. At this point, it was like a monthly thing. It was all like the budget would allow for. We kind of put out this thing on the local newsletter. It's just called the Hants Journal, just this one page thing people would get in the mail, because I grew up in Hants County, Nova Scotia. And it said performing next Saturday, Fudd Green with buck 65 instead of 65 Buick. They just got it wrong. And rather than go around and tell everyone, no, it's supposed to be this, I just said screw it and went with it.
Not bad.
Yeah. So that was supposed to be an answer with a question with a quick and easy answer, but
So basically, you didn't want to go back. You didn't want to be Buick 65. You wanted to be Buck 65.
well, I'm just I just couldn't have been bothered to go around and at that point where we're talking about hundreds of people that I would have had to set the record straight with, dozens at least, and I went with it. I mean, I even thought, well, I mean, that's sounds cool enough. I mean, the 65 Buick, that's a fine car, fine automobile, but I thought, yeah, I mean, a little embarrassing to be named after a car or whatever. Yeah, that works. I wasn't too picky about it. So yeah, but I still have a place in my heart for the roots of where I came from, and for that car. But every car that Buick made in '65 is a pretty great car, worth checking out. I don't. I want one, and I'm looking. I've actually been looking on the internet in the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of dealers down in like Florida and Louisiana down south that kind of cater to that sort of thing. Restoring old cars, and I've been pricing some actually. But I know my dad is also a fan. He had a '63 Riviera, and he wants another one someday. So I'm not really thinking of myself first. I'm thinking of my dad. So I'm gonna try to get one in the next few years if all goes well, as a surprise for him. Go pick it up, maybe drive it up the coast and just kind of spring it on him one day or something. But I'll enjoy that vicariously, Yeah.
All right, so on a slightly different note,
Yeah.
but still continuing with it, the releases, your old stuff is being re-released through Warner.
Yeah.
And how does it change from the original versions?
In just very subtle ways. Artwork, I just kind of repackaged everything because, I've kind of packaged everything, if you will, under in the form of this series that I've called the Language Arts series. And I thought, well, since this is like a kind of continuing thing, maybe we'll just give it a kind of uniform look. And it was remastered. But other than that, it's exactly the same.
Okay. Why did you change? Well, I've just asked that. You've answered it. I was about to ask why you changed the covers.
Right.
Pretty explanatory.
Yeah.
Will any of your older material, as in much older material, be released, or will that remain where it is?
Well, I used the record Weirdo Magnet originally and in its current form as a bit of a you know outlet for some of the older material. The album basically amounts to like highlights of like the early years. So there's like material that I did in high school on there, and things stuff from the '80s or whatever. But as far as like some of the other records that came before Language Arts, like Game Tight and some of the other singles and Chin Music and so on, and for that matter the Sebutones records, I'd like to see something done with them in some way, shape, or form. However, I kind of like the idea of having obscurities, and these things out there that exist, and maybe people know they exist, and there's like talk of their existence, but they don't, you know, know where to find them, and they really have to, dig hard and deep to find them, and I've always enjoyed that sort of pursuit myself as a music collector and so on. Um, that's a real fun challenge and really rewarding when you find some of those obscure things. So I'm kind of happy to keep some of them, in obscurity like that, just for the sake of the challenge. And like I did a couple 7-inch singles, which is an item that people fetishize over. And this is really stupid, but I have a box at home filled with one of these 7 inches. It was done on like clear red vinyl, extra reason to fetishize. And I just sit there with this box like I've got this box, and what would someone do for this? But meanwhile I just put it back in a closet and then just I just like look at it. It's pretty dumb. Nevertheless, it's it's there. Maybe someday someone will come along and burn it or ask me for it or something. I don't know, but nevertheless, stuff's floating out there, and there's a few things there's only maybe like a couple hundred copies of, so I like that. I mean, I have a few records in my collection that I had to look for years, and in the end spend a lot of money for, that there's only a couple hundred copies of it. And to me, that's just so much more rewarding, especially if you're a fan, than like having it reissued. You can buy it for $10, anywhere. So,
are you still able to release stuff on MetaForensics or?
There's a lot of details of my contract that I don't understand, and I just leave the understanding of that to other people. I think I understand that is possible, and one thing that we discussed maybe even was like keeping the label alive and maybe even using it as a thing to just release records by other people, and so on. And I think like as it stands, like the Sebutone stuff is still on MetaForensics or whatever. The focus lately, I've been like so busy with just kind of all this other crap that I haven't had much time to kind of look into some of these possibilities, but it's been in the back of my mind for a long time. And for that matter, over Christmas, I called up 6'2", who I had this side project with called the Sebutones, and I said, Rob, let's schedule some time, put some time aside, and work on a new Sebutones record. And he said, I'll think about it. Doesn't have time for me anymore. And he just got signed as well to Ninja Tune, I think. So he's which is good for him, and he's happy, and I'm happy he's happy. But he's outgrown me now, I think.
So with regards to that, is there any Sebutones material which has yet to surface, or that is in the works or whatnot?
Well, when I was getting a Weirdo Magnet ready for its sort of re-release, I thought, let me kind of restructure this album, kind of do it again, because its original version was really scrappy and the sound quality was terrible. So I was just digging through all my boxes of kind of lost stuff or whatever, and I found a lost Sebutones song on there, which I put on on Weirdo Magnet, and there is like the original, like the first couple things we did, like an album called Psoriasis, which again, there were like a few hundred copies of that. I don't think too many people have heard. A record I still really love. And our first 12-inch, Sebutone Def, which again was pressed in very limited numbers, and I still get asked all the time if that's going to be reissued. Now that was done on another label run by another group of people, so I don't even know where that stands or if anyone else has any intention of doing something with it. But I would love to have some of that stuff see the light of day again. And really all the Sebutone's material, I mean, even 50/50 Where It Counts, which I guess is like kind of the one record that we did that a few people knew about. That's one of my pieces of work that I'm most proud of, and that record really just kind of got ruined. Like it went nowhere. So I'd like to see that record in particular done justice at some point.
Okay.
So and I'd love to see it on vinyl as well. So that's kind of been like a priority for me in the last while. And let's see. Yeah, there's a few odd things here and there that I can remember that we did that I don't even know, like, where like the master would be of it now. And lots of stuff that was like only ever half finished.
Yeah.
And lots of stuff written, which is, kind of sad. But then again, I did find a couple of verses that were intended for Sebutone songs that again I put into the that Weirdo Magnet album. So that's the Weirdo Magnet's the garbage can of the collection, I guess. So maybe starting to get dark in here.
All right, so tell me a little bit about Rich and baseball.
Yeah, well, I was 8 years old, and in my house where I grew up, we had like a rec room in the basement with sort of this yellow-orange shag carpeting. And I remember my mom sitting on the couch. The sun was low in the sky coming through the window in the basement door, and you could sort of like see like sort of that beam of sun coming through with like all the dust in it. And she said, "Do you want to play baseball this summer?" And I said, "No way, Jose," because I thought, hanging out with my friends and being a goof and riding my bike and playing in the dirt was way too important to me. And I thought, I can't miss the time I would spend playing with my friends by running off and playing this game. And I'd never played it before or anything like that. So I said no. I had no interest. But then later that afternoon, I was approached by all my friends and, "Yeah, I'm going to play baseball." So I found out that all them were going to play. So of course I ran back to my mom and said, "Yeah, make sure you sign me up." And, it was a matter of weeks later, we had a team assembled. We had our first practice, and, it was just like Frosty the Snowman when they put the hat on his head. When I put that glove on, something kind of magical happened because I was good at it right away, having never played it before, and something felt really right about it. So I went home that night after that first practice and wept. And I thought, what does this mean? Because it was really overwhelming, this feeling like, something's happening to me. I got bit by a radioactive spider or something, and it was over. Right then and there, it was over. I had this like kind of cosmic tap on my shoulder saying, "This, you found it. You found it earlier than we all expected, us gods. But this is what you were put on Earth to do." And I felt that way right from the start, and I still feel that way. And it still kills me that I know what I'm supposed to be doing and I'm not doing it. But first year I played, in my league, I won, most improved player award, and then like next year I won like the most valuable player award, and got continued to improve really really quickly, and was really serious about it. I thought, this is what I want to do as a career, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And but here I was kind of stranded in Nova Scotia, and no one at that point gave like a rat's ass about baseball in Nova Scotia. Scouts would kind of scour Central America and the United States, and not much else at that point. Now, of course, it's a vastly different story, and baseball in Nova Scotia is like this big, well-formed organization, unfortunately for me. But there was a baseball school that took place every year in the valley in Nova Scotia in a town called Kentville. And they would bring up instructors from the U.S. and even some scouts to see what was what. So that this is it. That's my chance right there. I have to go there and light that sucker on fire. So the first couple of years I went, I had little injuries that were holding me back from performing to, my peak potential as I saw it anyway. But one year I finally went and I was healthy, and I'm like, there's just no stopping me, and I was really focused, more focused than I've ever been at any other time in my life. And so I just went at it as hard as I possibly could. And at the end of the week, this guy who worked for the Yankees came up to me and said, are you interested in, going and playing college baseball and maybe, making a career out of this? I'm like, of course. I didn't even get excited about it. It's just like, it's about time you asked, kind of thing. It was just like part of the plan as far as I was concerned. And, but I was 16 years old and I had a year of high school left to go. So he said, well, you're going to finish high school and you're going to come play for me, because in addition to working for the Yankees organization, he was the manager of a college team in Ohio. Okay. And halfway through my, last year of high school, I got a telephone call from a friend and said, Stan took a heart attack, who was my scout. And then I hurt my knee really badly, and a few other factors happened, and basically it derailed that entire plan. And at the same time, these weird things started to happen for me for music, and my life has taken on this completely different direction. But it's been hard on the head because I miss it so bad, and every year I've been thinking, Jesus, I got to be playing baseball this summer, but something's always like taking me away or whatever. But I still think about it all the time, and I finally did play competitively last summer again for the first time in years. And realistically, I know I'm probably too old now, but I'm not a very realistic person, and I can't really let go of that dream at all, because it was there in me solid since I was 8. And I'd been reading a lot of Jean-Paul Sartre lately, and he says that there's a lot of significance to the 8th year of your life. I don't know fully what he based that on, but he posits that that's the year that what happens in your life. A lot of your influences, whatever, from that time in your life will stay with you for the rest of your life. In that year, a lot of people kind of really form their personalities or find their interests that they'll carry with them through their life or whatever. And I can't help but agree with that, because it certainly happened to me. So I just believe it's like ingrained in me somehow. I'm sure it'll never go away. I'm still really passionate about it. I still keep in shape. I just can't stand to see like my skills slide. If that happened, I think I just wouldn't be able to live with myself. So I still exercise all the time, even if it's just by myself. But that's how I did it the whole time growing up anyway. And me by myself in the backyard throwing a ball against the foundation of my house. So I'm still kind of doing the same thing, just throwing rolled up socks around the hotel room here before you got here, turning some double plays. So still everyday thing. People ask once in a while, if you could choose right now magically between music and baseball, what would be a simple answer for me? It'd certainly be baseball. So
you kind of briefly went on about reality and how baseball would be kind of a fantasy at the moment. Now, a thing which I read that you're very passionate about is David Lynch films.
Yeah. Got see that box there under the CDs? That's the collection of the short films of David Lynch. I just bought it.
David Lynch.
Yeah.
My passion is script writing.
Yeah.
That's what I want to properly do. Now, I like some of his stuff, but explain to me what the hell the purpose of Mulholland Drive was all about.
Well, see, here's the thing. There's some fundamental things that I guess would be required of being an audience to any David Lynch work, and it's not your prerogative to choose to understand that. You can just say I don't want to do it and decide that you're going to hate it. But with that film, and certainly with Lost Highway and Eraserhead, it's just you got to basically let go of everything. An important sort of fact about his background is that before he got involved in film, he was like an abstract impressionist painter.
Okay.
And I think he definitely like applies, some of the same kind of thought to film. And he just wants to create, some sort of like atmosphere, or mood or whatever. And I don't think he's concerned with a story or with rules or whatever else. And I know that dreaming is, a big thing for his creative process. And I've heard him describe a few different times how he likes to go into this state where he'll sort of sit in a quiet place, relax, and close his eyes and allow himself to sort of drift towards sleep, but not quite get there. And you're kind of in that in-between place where you can still kind of think in a semi-lucid way, think about what you want to think about, but then your mind begins to do these strange things. I really enjoy that myself. I don't always necessarily use it to write, but and so that's where he's coming from. He'll just sort of, see these things, and in dreams, for example, things will just take a left turn that makes no sense, really. And I think there's a lot of that at work in all his films. But with Mulholland Drive, one thing to think about if you ever choose to go back and look at that film is it's a film about film and actors and the industry. And one theory that I think is valid or worth looking at is that there is a film within the film, and that explains why people
what
have
I always told the most convincing argument as to what, if you can say, it is about, is that it's supposedly a dream. The entire film is about a dream.
Right, yeah.
I don't know, I like it. It really, really intrigued me, and there were scenes which I loved to death. But I kept looking, and still do when I watch it, look to find something, a sort of purpose and whatnot within it.
Yeah.
But there isn't one really to be found.
Right. Well, I mean, often if you hear interviews with the guy, he's like, well, don't go looking, for a purpose, and there probably isn't one there.
Yeah.
And that's, I understand how that's kind of unsettling for people. And there's lots of people out there, majority of people just, figure that's rubbish and don't want to waste their time with that or whatever. But I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, like, take a look at a film like Gummo, for example, that Harmony Korine did. I heard him explain that as like, a lot of times when people make a film, they kind of start with this one kind of great scene they have in mind, and then just kind of build a film around it. But in the end, that's still the pivotal scene. That's kind of like the big moment, and lots of films kind of have like these interesting moments with kind of space and fill in between. And he's like, screw that. I'll just make a bunch of interesting scenes without any of the stuff in between. And frankly, I hear that and think, well, yeah, what's wrong with that? And people who inspire me with like sort of like their creative approach to art, people like David Lynch or Harmony Korine, or for that matter like Vivienne Westwood, like fashion designer, or John Galliano, or lots of other people. It's like, screw convention or whatever, and who says it has to be this way, and let's allow ourselves to like dream or go a little further or whatever. And I'm all for that, and I think it's pretty obvious on my records that I'm kind of challenging convention, a bit too. Wait, should I? I'm gonna get this maybe real quick.
All right, let's see. I think that's what's good.
All right.
Is being on a, this is a question which just basically popped up because of that. Is being on a label such as Warner a better or worse thing? And we don't have to include this if you don't want to.
Yeah. Well, believe me, I weighed all available options and potential choices of direction before I got into this, and I put 10 years of independent work under my belt before that, and it got to the point where I certainly felt that it's for the better. Ask me again in a year, and we'll see. But the independent route, even though on paper it seems like a great and wonderful idea, it's riddled with pitfalls. An independent distribution in North America is a mess, and that coupled with a few other things, just really, really beginning to frustrate me. And all I've ever wanted to do is like make a record, then let people know that this record has been made, and then if anyone's interested, for it to be a simple matter for them to go get it. That's all I want. I'm not even interested in like money, photographs being taken, like all that business. I just want to make a record and then make it easily available to people. And here was like the best opportunity to do that. So it was really as simple as that for me. And maybe oversimplifying it a little, but I mean, Warner came to me rather than me going to them, and just said, what can we do to help out with this good thing you got going here? And I'm like, well, this and this, and like, all right, keep doing your thing. So I mean, there's I got a really good contract because I had a really good lawyer. Just like, no compromise at all. I think a lot of people were probably a little worried, like, oh shit, he's on a major label. Oh, here it goes, straight down the tubes. And then Square comes out, and it's like, weirder than ever or whatever. So that's the first thing I see in so many reviews. Like, what the hell is Warner thinking? Like, look at this record. What the hell is it? And that makes me feel, really, really good for myself and for Warner and for everyone else, like who is having expectations about such a thing. Like, okay, it's going to get, watered down or commercialized, or compromises are going to be made, and it should be obvious that nothing would be further from the truth. It's like still me, digging as deep as I can go, and they're like, whatever you want to do. And like, lately we've been talking about things like what I want to do with my website, and with other creative ideas, and I'll like check in with them, like, what do you think of this idea? I'm like, whatever, just do it all you want. You don't even need to check, pretty much. So yeah, I'm just free to do my thing, and they just allow me to do it. But not only that, to do it right. Like in the past, it's like, yeah, I should really maybe try to do something to market this record in some small way, or maybe buy an ad somewhere. And it's like you scrape, and then you have like a tiny budget to do it. Now it's just like, to do it. Whatever idea I have, I can just get it done, which is nice.
Will there be any singles properly released, or any videos emerging from Square?
Yep. Both are in the works right now. There's a single, again, in the form of a 7-inch that's, I think, being pressed as we speak. That should materialize in a matter of a couple of weeks, and a video for the A side of that single, which is this piece, I guess, that we've been referring to as Phil. PHIL, which is in the first segment, I guess, if you will, of Square. It has like the odd time signature sort of built around this acoustic guitar thing. It's like 20 some years is a long walk, even if it's not in a straight line, blah blah. That song, that's sort of gonna function as a single, or as close as we can get to it.
With Square being recently released, all I've heard about it in terms of the distribution is that it seems pretty limited at the moment. Is there a reason for that, or?
If it's limited, I would say it's probably limited in terms of, it depends on how you want to look at it. Like in Canada, for example, because it is on a major label, it's just service to every major chain store. And that's a little bit odd for people when they're used to going to their sort of local independent store, and that's where they know they can find me. Now they go there and they may or may not find me, depending on if that store has chosen like to order the record, whereas it's kind of just automatically service to every kind of major chain thing, which granted is a little bit weird, but in that sense, it should be readily and easily available, unless of course it sells out and just needs to be reordered, which apparently has been happening a bit, which makes me feel good. But nevertheless, I guess maybe sometimes here and there, the whip needs to be cracked on everyone to make sure it stays stocked or whatever. But then alternatively, in the U.S. so far, it's only being serviced to independent stores,
Yeah.
and so on, and hasn't been serviced yet to major chains or whatever. So there, it's kind of back to square one, where it always was. Like if you want it, you kind of got to go out to your local kind of corner shop place or whatever, and they'll probably have it, and if not, can order it for you really easily. And a lot of the roots, if you will, of how I've done things before are still kind of being maintained. Like the 7-inch single that's about to come out, and the vinyl for Square is still being distributed independently and serviced exclusively to independent stores and vinyl shops and that sort of thing. And then it's a different story like everywhere else, depending on what part of the world you're in. And that's mostly due to the fact that it just works really differently in a lot of parts of the world. But like in France, for example, you trip over a copy of the record on the sidewalk practically, I think, by the sounds of it. And same with Australia, I think. It has its limitations in a certain regard, but in a way, I think it's just maybe confusing to people who are used to seeing it in a certain place, or used to having their focus really tight. I really have to kind of dig through the cracks to find it, and I'm digging where I usually used to dig, and I'm not finding it there. You got to step away. So, oh, there it is. Kind of right in front of you. So I guess it's just kind of new way about things to get used to or something.
Yeah. Now, you briefly mentioned France. I'd heard that you properly moved there, and I'd heard that you just spent time there. What's the situation with that?
I was living there for half a year,
Okay.
and then I had to come back to Canada for a couple reasons. One, legally, without the proper paperwork and visas and all that stuff, you can only legally live there for a half a year at a time.
Okay.
So there's that as a factor. And then B, I just have tons to do right now, and I'm basically touring, right through May. So I thought, well, it doesn't make much sense for me to be paying rent in a place that I'm not going to be in at all, maybe except for a few days out of the next several months. So I gave up my apartment, but it's my intention, and I already spoke to people, the woman who owns my apartment, about getting it back. I just have to choose if I want to do that in the spring, go back, or I'm thinking really seriously about staying in Canada for the summer to play baseball, actually, again. But it's my intention to go back. I really love it there a lot. So for now, I'm just drifting.
Will you ever? Okay, thank God. Will you ever, or do you have plans to be producing for any other outside acts?
Well, I'm certainly not opposed to the idea. The offer hasn't been raised much. I just got offered to produce a song for Prince Poetry from Organized Confusion.
Nice.
So that potentially will be a first step towards that. I'm definitely interested in it, but no one ever asks.
Mhm.
Although granted, often making music is a really super personal thing for me, and so sometimes I find it really difficult to work with others, because I find I need to be able to really relate to a person on a personal and kind of emotional level for it to work, and for the result to be something that I feel good about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a little easier to do that when it's a matter of just kind of producing for someone else, because maybe they'll do something with it that I didn't intend, but I can live with that a little more than trying to make my writing work with I think it's more of an issue for me with writing than it would be for producing. So I'm all for it. Just haven't had much interest yet.
Aside from, of course, the release of Square and the fact that you're touring, is there anything musically that you're working on at the moment, or are you
Oh
just
yeah, I got the next album done. It's been done for well, I mean, a little while. I shouldn't say done, done. I mean, it hasn't been, mastered and like the artwork's not done or anything like that. But the music, the songs, if you or whatever, is recorded, and then towards yet another album on top of that, I have 10 songs written that I've written since Christmas, and right in the summertime before I left for France, I recorded an album with DJ Signify from the 1200 Hobos and Sage Francis. The three of us got together on an album. So yeah, I'm as usual sitting on like a ton of material. So the record with Signify and Sage Francis is called Sleep No More, and we're just looking for a label basically right now for it, but I'm hoping to get that out really soon. We were talking to Warp in the UK, and they were interested, but in the end, it didn't work out, and they made some comments that I think were really devastating to DJ Signify. So he's just kind of shopping that around right now. My next record, it's called The Talkin' Honky Blues, and I'm hoping to have that out by the summer. And then we're also, when I say we, I guess I just mean, myself and all the people around me, be it label people or management or whoever else. We're talking about this idea of sort of releasing 2 records this year. One, just kind of releasing it properly out to the stores, and then setting up this thing. We haven't thought it through all the way, but kind of releasing a record sort of piece by piece over the course of like months, just over the internet, kind of like free or whatever. And then at the end of there's a certain amount of time, suddenly there will be an album or whatever. And then we're still trying to figure that out, but then maybe after it's all kind of out there piece by piece, take all that material and kind of put it onto a CD for anyone who wants it. But trying I really built most of what I have now in a lot of ways through the internet, and met lots of people and friends and people interested in what I'm doing through that. And so it's a real important tool for me, and I really want to feed that. And over the last like year in particular, I've been just kind of letting new songs just kind of slip out there that I don't intend to like release on records, just to kind of keep some new music out there or whatever. And so yeah, basically, long story short, I'm sort of thinking about like releasing 2 records at the same time, just in different forms, like this Talkin' Honky Blues record, and then like I said, with these 10 new songs that I've written, maybe I'll write a couple more and just kind of release it bit by bit over the internet. Like I was thinking maybe setting up this thing and putting out a song a month for anyone who just wants to like sign up for it or something like that. I haven't thought it through all the way, but
well, if you wanted, we could try and organize it so that it went through MVRemix.
yeah, well, we
We have a very, very big viewership.
Yeah, well, we should. We should certainly talk about that.
Could do that. Well, basically, the final question is the easiest one of all, because there's going to be a lot of people reading this. If there's anything you wish to say to your fans or potential fans that will be reading it, what is it?
Well, I guess the main thing that I always want to just get across to people is if you've managed to keep your head out of your ass thus far in your life, good job. Just always make sure to keep checking from time to time that it hasn't slipped up inside there, and because it has a way of happening. And so a good way that you could check on that, or prevent that sort of thing from happening, would be to go out and check out some Johnny Cash records, or some Carter family records, or some Sonics, or maybe some Bubble Puppy, or go dig up the Heart of the Congos album by the Congos, or listen to the Ethiopians or something like that. I think what I'm getting at is enriching yourself musically, if that's your bag, or with whatever else your interest may be. It's just, no matter what, it's healthy and good. So if you like to rent movies, why don't you go explore the Nouvelle Vague or something, if you haven't already, or if you like to eat 3 square meals a day, why don't you go, try, you know, Ethiopian food, if you haven't already, or something. And that seems obvious to a lot of people, but I mean, I know my sisters, for example, buy like, those sort of like hit compilation albums, and eat at McDonald's, and that's about it, or whatever. And I don't know. I think if people share the things that they're passionate about and interested in, instead of like hoarding them, which people have a way of doing sometimes, then it's just gonna make the world a more and better lubricated place. So share,